Bayons is a French commune in the Alpes-de-Haute-Provence department in the Provence-Alpes-Côte d'Azur region of southeastern France. The inhabitants of the commune are known as Bayonnais or Bayonnaises. Geography: Bayons is located in the Massif des Monges, some 20 km south by southeast of Gap and 15 km northeast of Sisteron. Access to the commune is by the D1 road from Clemenceau in the west, which passes through the commune and the village before continuing north to Tarias. Bayons is situated in a vast cirque surrounded by high mountains, through which the Sasse flows, exiting through a narrow clou. The commune was formed from the merger of four communes in 1973, Astoin, Bayons, Espère and Le Bâti and Renier. Except for Astoin, the communes joined to Bayons in 1973, located in parallel valleys perpendicular to the Sasse and downstream from Bayons. The commune is located in a region of mountainous relief and has a Mediterranean climate with challenging features as well as a mountain climate. It is traversed by some tumultuous rivers. Agriculture in the area has always been difficult. The population of the four communes peaked in 1836 with 1625 inhabitants, but a century and a half later, 90% of this population had been lost due to the rural exodus that began early and had more breadth in these four communes than in the rest of the department. This persuaded the government to propose the merger of the communes, which took place on the 1st of April 1973. Since then the population has almost doubled. Farms have been retained, sometimes using regional quality labels. The communal economy is based on tourism, but the majority of people in the commune work outside. Pictures of roads and bridges in the commune. Mapping: a list of online mapping systems can be displayed by clicking on the coordinates in the top right-hand corner of this article. Neighboring communes and villages. Geology-related article: Geology of the Alps. The commune is located in the middle of three major geological alpine formations, the Nappe of Dina to the east at the tip of the Val of Wallot. There is a thrust sheet, i.e. a slab nearly 5,000 meters thick, which was displaced towards the southwest during the Oligocene at the end of the formation of the Alps. The lobes correspond to the ragged edge west of the Nappe. The Durance Fault to the southwest in the valley. The plateau of Valençay to the southeast, a molassic basin from the Miocene and Pliocene composed of detritic sedimentary rocks. During the last two major glaciations, the RIS's glaciation and the WURM glaciation, there were many small glaciers in the commune. A glacier occupied the northern slope of the Tête des Monges. During the RIS's glaciation, a diffluence from the Durance Glacier crossed the Col des Saints and went down to the Sasse Valley. The WURM glaciation was less extensive and only reached Les Tourniquets. It was during this glacial period that the Triassic gypsum and moraines were created that make the terrain unstable in this part of the valley. Another RIS's glaciation diffluence reached the top of the Trente-Épar torrent, but this did not recur during the WURM glaciation. Relief: the relief of the commune is mountainous, low, but very compartmentalized, making communication difficult. It has partly been shaped by glaciers. The main structural element is the Sasse Valley, which drains several basins separated by water gaps. The southernmost of these basins is the former commune of Renier, semicircular in shape with the diameter towards the northeast. This diameter is a ridge of mountains rising between 1,200 meters and 1,700 meters, separating the Renier basin from the Espère and Le Bâti Valley. From north to south, the Patagouet, the Chérine Ridge, Curle Ridge, the Citadel, the Pinet Ridge, the Maladrech Ridge to the southeast. Several mountains then define a wide semicircle. On the north side they slope gently and form green mountain meadows. On the south and west side they form a line of steeper slopes. From east to west and from south to north they are the Rouse Ridge, the Serrière des Cabines, the Clotte des Martyrs Ridge, the Dormeurs Ridge which rises to the Quai Saint-Jean when it connects to Jure Mountain, the Jure Mountain whose peak extends towards the Renier Mountain. This mountain forms a basin to the north along the Sasse. In the middle of this basin is Le Puy, another mountain with a ridge in the south and an inclined slope to the north. North of Renier Basin, the Bayons Gorge provides access to the upper valley of the Sasse and the Bayons Basin. This basin is bounded on the north by a small massif dominated by Point de Rolle and Grande Gautier which opens to several valleys in the east and south. To the north is the valley where Astoin is located and which communicates with the Tarriers Basin through a gorge, the Col des Seines, and Les Tourniquets. Trente-Pas and Sasse valleys are to the northeast limited by the summits of Terre Grosse, Tête de Charbonnier, Tête Grosse, and Chanau. Facing Bayons is L'Oratoire summit, Tête Grosse. Finally, wedged between the Bayons Basin and that of Renier, is the long valley of Espère and Le Bâti-Sasse closed off from the Sasse by the Roches de l'Illours. The ridges north of this valley lead to the top of L'Oratoire and are marked by the Roche de l'Aigle and the Roche du Midi. This valley widens and is closed to the east by the summit of Cloche-Genus, the summit of l'Orpy, and the summit of Les Monges. Hydrography. The commune is traversed by the Sasse, which is formed from many streams and has many tributaries draining the adjacent valleys. On the right bank the Sasse receives the stream from the Trente-Pas ravine, the Oamir stream which becomes a cluster when traversing Les Tourniquets, the Mardavich, which passes at the foot of Bayons, the Ruinon, whose confluence with the Sasse is between Forest-la-Cour and Bédouin. The left bank tributaries of the Sasse are the Chabet of stream 5.5 kilometers long flowing through the Bayons Basin, the Rio de Pont which drains the Espère and Le Bâti Valley and when crossing the Roches de l'Illours, forms a waterfall and becomes the Ruisseau des Tines, a stream 10 kilometers long. The Renier, a stream 9.1 kilometers long. In the upper part of the Espère and Le Bâti Valley is a small lake, Lake Espérance at 1,544 meters, to the east of the Maladrech Ridge. Environment. The town has 5,500 hectares of woods and forests, 44% of its area. Chamois are endemic in the Massif of Monges but had nearly disappeared from the area in the 1970s as victims of intensive hunting. The National Forest Office has created a game reserve in the Haute-Combe which includes the reserves of Monges, Hautes-Graves-Ruinen, and Monticellier. Since the 1980s the species is still hunted but with quotas. The mouflon had been exterminated and its presence is due to its reintroduction in early 1990. Two population nuclei are in the commune, in the hunting reserve of the Hautes-Graves-Ruinen and in the Massif des Monges. Roe deer had also disappeared since the beginning of the 19th century together with its natural environment, the forest. It has returned to the commune from a core reintroduced into the Vancouver Valley in the 1970s. The presence of the alpine marmot is also mainly due to reintroductions. The otter, which was once present, has disappeared but has not been reintroduced. Natural and technological risks. None of the 200 communes in the department is in a no-seismic risk zone. The canton of Tarriers, to which Bayons belongs, is in Area 1B according to the deterministic classification of 1991 and based on its seismic history, and in Zone 4 according to the probabilistic classification EC8 of 2011. Bayons also faces 4 other natural hazards: avalanche, forest fire, flood, landslide, Bayons is not exposed to any risk of technological origin identified by the prefecture. There is no plan for prevention of foreseeable natural risks for the commune, and there is no DICRIM. The commune has been the subject of orders for natural disasters in 1994 for floods, landslides and mudslides. The worst flooding occurred in 1492 when rains caused the formation of debris flows that destroyed several hamlets and part of the village. This monstrous flood has remained in the annals of the commune. See the history section for details. Localities and hamlets. In addition to the village, the town includes several hamlets, and LTREFV name equals geo, and GT, history. Prehistory and ancient times. Although Homo heidelbergensis probably inhabited the Manches Massif several hundreds of thousands of years ago, there is no evidence that they specifically occupied the area of Bayons. The Vitrolles site, 30 kilometers to the west, shows that 11,000 years ago the area was frequented by hunters and gatherers who came in summer then went away to the south. Most of the Durance valleys and the Massif des Manches experienced a Neolithic revolution when Mesolithic societies disappeared and were replaced by Cardium pottery and then by the Chassean culture. The lithic core founded these was an example of the technical progress in the era. Stone tools are no longer cut by impact but by pressure applied on the chosen part. A treasure of Massiliatic cobbles dating from the Gallic period was discovered in the commune in 1850. The Romanization of Bayons in the following centuries is manifested by constructions at altitude. Middle Ages Astoin. The castrum of Astoin was near the mule truck connecting Bayons to Tarias. The Counts of Provence were lords of Astoin during the 14th and 15th century through the Arols and Angel families. During the crisis caused by the death of Queen Joanna I of Naples, Raoul Angel, Lord of Astoin, fought with Charles, Duke of Durazzo, against Louis I of Anjou. The rallying of Sisteron to the Angevin cause in November 1385 brought about his change of commitment, and he paid homage to Louis from the 30th of November, 1385. Astoin had 28 fires in 1315 but only 6 in 1471. It was at the time that the old site, located on a hill 500 meters from the current site and named Vierre, was abandoned in favor of the current site. By 1765 there were 264 inhabitants. Bayons is cited around 1200 in the form Bayons. The community had a consulate in 1233 and was the largest community in the vicar of Sisteron. The two churches and their income belonged to the Abbey of Lille-Barbe in Lyon. The oldest church was the Church of Our Lady of Nazareth, which was located in the Claster Valley, probably on the medieval site of the village. The community owned the lands called gasts, which also belonged to the Lord. These lands were farmed by the community often as pasture. At Bayons, they were traditionally granted against a task equivalent to 1/8 of the harvest. The income of the community allowed it to gradually redeem all manorial rights before 1789, including the privilege granted by the Counts of Provence, banning the grazing of foreign herds in Bayons lands. The Counts of Provence also levied a toll on cattle migrations passing through Bayons. In 1300 a small Jewish community was established in Bayons, which is an indication of its position as a tiny, relatively unknown rural hamlet. In 1348 Queen Joanna I of Naples, driven from her kingdom of Naples, had to take refuge in Provence. To regain her Neapolitan states, she sold Avignon to the Pope for 80,000 florins and at the same time obtained papal absolution to wash away suspicion in the murder of her first husband Andrew, Duke of Calabria. grateful, she offered the fief of Valence to William II Roger, brother of the Pope. This was made a viscounty by letters patent in 1350. The new viscounty included the communities of Bayons, Vormel, La Motte-du-Caire, Bellefaire, Gigues, Lorzay, Les Amis-Acutes, Mesel, Entreven, and Castellet, with their jurisdictions and dependencies. In 1359 the residents of Bayons sued those of Seine, claiming the privilege of not paying the toll to come to the fair at Saint-Michel-de-Seine. They obtained satisfaction, but the people of Seine won on appeal. Fortifications were built in the 14th century which were inspected in 1403 by the provost of the Viscount of Valence. Another fortification was built above Bédoin on the mountain called the Château. It allowed the monitoring of the road from Sisteron to Seine. On the 26th of July 1492, heavy rains caused a devastating flood of the Sasse. La Mardavich, the torrent passing Bayons, had a debris flow that destroyed the village. The hamlets of La Montagne and Ruinon were also affected. Ruinon, the Fontanier torrent, also caused damage to cultivated land. 4 people were killed. Livestock was also affected, with hundreds of animals washed away. Finally, loosened soils were washed away by rain together with ripe wheat and vines in the following days. According to residents, rocks of 5 tons were displaced by the floods. Esparin-le-Bâti, the village of Esparin, was sited in 1200 under the name of Castrum Sparona-se-Basgita. There were 2 village communities, and 1 fief held by a lord. Esparin-le-Bâti was hardest hit by the crises of the 14th century than its neighbors, as it had 74 fires in 1315 but only 12 in 1471. By 1765 it had a population of 205. The counts of Provence levied a toll on cattle migrations. Passing through Esparin-le-Bâti and lords were the Mourier family from the 13th to the 17th century. The parish church was heavily damaged by the end of the religious wars. In 1641 repairs had still not been done, and the lord of Esparin was ordered to pay for 2/3 of the work, with the remaining third by the priory. Renier is reported for the first time in charters of 1232 as Castrum Ranieri. The community had 25 fires in 1471 and 218 inhabitants by 1765. This former fief of the bishops of Gap was owned by the Arbon family from the 15th to the 17th century, then by the Boniface family until the French Revolution. Modern times. For the 16th century the lordship of Astoin belonged successively to Tarriers, Castellane, Boniface, then to Hugues. At Esparin the Pélissier family succeeded Mourier in the 17th century. In the 16th century Louis de Barras, lord of Melun, allowed the grazing of sheep flocks in Bayons from Esteva, while herds from Renier and Esparin-le-Bâti wintered at La Roque and Corbière. Bayons appears as Bayons on the 1750 Cassini map and the same on the 1790 version. Astoin appears as Artoin on the 1750 Cassini map and is Astoin on the 1790 version. Esparin-le-Bâti appears as Aparin on the 1750 Cassini map and is Esparin on the 1790 version. Renier appears as Renier on the 1750 Cassini map and the same on the 1790 version. French Revolution. At the beginning of the French Revolution, the news of the storming of the Bastille was welcomed but caused a phenomenon of collective fear in the population of a possible aristocratic reaction. Locally, The Great Fear came from Tallard and belonging to the contemporary fear of the Mykonos reached the area of La Motte du Caire on the evening of 31 July 1789. The consuls of the village community were warned that a troop of 5,000 or 6,000 brigands were coming towards Haute-Provence after pillaging the Dauphiné. The communities of La Motte, Clamenceau, Saint-Genis, Orthon, Courbons, Bayons, and Claret together created a troop of 700 armed men. They put the Marquis of Hughes de Beaujeu at its head. He decided to stand in front of the danger by going towards the danger and to monitor the boats on the Durance. After the 2nd of August the panic subsided and the original rumors clarified. An important change took place. The communities were armed and organized to defend themselves and their neighbors. A sense of solidarity was born within the communities and between neighboring communities, and consuls decided to maintain the National Guards. Immediately after the fear subsided, however, the authorities recommended disarming the workers and the landless and keep only landowners in the National Guard. Contemporary period. The French coup d'état of 1851 committed by Louis Napoleon Bonaparte against the French Second Republic provoked an armed uprising in the Lower Alps in defense of the Constitution. After the failure of the uprising, there was a severe crackdown on those who stood up to defend the Republic, with one inhabitant of Bayons. Like many communes in the department, Bayons adopted schools well before the Jules Ferry laws. In 1863 there were already 2 schools providing primary education for boys located in the main village and at Coombe. Although the Fallow laws did not require the opening of a school for girls in communes with less than 800 inhabitants, Bayons, with less than 700 inhabitants in 1861, also had a school for girls. The Second Derby Act allowed it, thanks to government subsidies, to build new village schools. Astoin, Espère and Le Bâti, and Renier communes each had a boys' school in 1863, but no school for girls. In these communes it was not the ferry laws that allowed girls into school. The very isolated hamlet of Rouenon had 46 inhabitants in 1886, as well as a school and a mailbox. This small community also had its own chapel of St. Joseph. Near Rouenon, the chapel for the hamlet of Forest-la-Cour was destroyed at the end of the 19th century to allow the passage of the road. The church had noted its declining attendance for several years. The commune sheltered a Maquis unit during World War II in the Tramelou district. It consisted of Franc-Tireurs partisans or FDP. On the 21st of July 1944, taking advantage of a shift in the German garrison of Sisteron, the Bayons FDP raided the citadel of Sisteron to rescue 50 resistance fighter detainees. On the 26th of July 1944, the same FDP unit was surprised by the German reaction using mortars, which resulted in 21 dead. 3 teenagers in a farm were also killed. A monument was erected in the memory located on an abandoned road to Tarias. Since World War II, vines were cultivated in the communes of Astoin, Bayons, Espère and Le Bâti and Renier until the middle of the 20th century. The wine was mediocre and intended only for home consumption. This culture has since been abandoned. The commune of Bayons merged with the communes of Espère and Le Bâti, Astoin, and Renier in 1973. Heraldry, politics and administration. Municipal administration. The municipal council is composed of 9 members including the mayor. List of successive mayors. Judicial and administrative proceedings. Bayons falls within the area of the Tribunal d'instance of Digne-les-Bains, the Tribunal de Grande instance of Digne-les-Bains, the Cour d'appel of Aix-en-Provence, the Tribunal pour enfants of Digne-les-Bains, the Conseil de Prud'homme of Digne-les-Bains, the Tribunal de Commerce of Manosque, the Tribunal administratif of Marseille, Marseille, and the core administrative DAPL of Marseille. Budget and taxation. Demography. In 2012 the commune had 232 inhabitants. The evolution of the number of inhabitants is known from the population censuses conducted in the commune since 1793. For the 21st century, a census of communes with fewer than 10,000 inhabitants is held every 5 years. Unlike larger communes that have a sample survey every year, population change sources LDHEHESS Cassini until 1962, INSEE database from 1968. Economy. Overview. In 2012 the workforce was 83 people, including 11 unemployed. These people are mostly employees and many work outside the commune. On the 1st of January 2014 there were a total of 28 business enterprises in the commune, 7 in agriculture, 4 in industry, 1 in construction, 12 in trade, transport, and services, and 4 in administration, education, health, or social services. Only the tertiary sector employed staff with 6 employees. Agriculture. According to the Agrest survey by the Ministry of Agriculture, the number of farms dropped sharply in the 2000s from 17 to 10. Sheep farms represented half of these farms. From 1988 to 2000 the agricultural land area increased from 1,100 hectares to 1216, while the number of farms fell from 20 to 17. The sow has continued to increase during the last decade, reaching 1,352 hectares, including 720 dedicated to sheep farming. Farms practicing polyculture disappeared in the 2000s. Labels. Bayons commune has an appellation d'origine contrôlée for lavender oil of Haute-Provence and 30 geographical protected indications, including apples of Alpes-de-Haute-Provence, honey of Provence, lamb of Sisteron, and many Méditerranée wine labels. Labels of Bayons. Industry. A small hydroelectric power station was installed in the late 1980s on Ruisseau des Tines. Service activities. According to the Departmental Observatory of Tourism, tourism is important for the commune, with between 1 and 5 tourists accommodated per capita, but most of the accommodation capacity is non-market. Several tourist accommodation facilities exist in the commune. 1 furnished accommodation with 4 beds. 1 bed and breakfast with 4 beds. 2 hostels with 16 beds. It is nevertheless second homes that have the greatest capacity, with 160 second homes on a total of 798 beds. Culture and heritage. Cultural festivals. On the first Rogation Day there is a procession from Bayons to Forest and return. Civil heritage. A house with arched windows, possibly a lordly mansion, on the village square. A chateau from the 18th century at Esparon, a ruined rectangular tower above the village from the 13th to 14th century. Religious heritage. The church of St. Anne at Astoin was the former castrum church dedicated to St. Michel. The parish of Astoin was merged with Bayons in 1711. The church of St. Christophe and St. Sebastian at Esparon. The former church of St. Vincent de Renier on the hill is in ruins. It was an old chapel chosen to replace the parish church at the end of the Wars of Religion in 1599. It was replaced by another church of St. Vincent in 1833. The chapel of Basse-Combe was restored in the 2000s. The St. Mary Magdalene Chapel in Haute-Combe is in ruins. The chapel Notre-Dame Sécures des Peches at Bordenard was built by the inhabitants in 1867 to 1868 for the new cemetery, which replaced the old cemetery which was far away. The Church of Notre-Dame de Bethlehem is registered as an historical monument. The church is large for the size of the village. It once housed a priory from the Abbey of Lille-Barbe. It is of Roman architecture with Gothic influences. According to Marc de Leeuw, it is a building where Alpine art of the 13th century is demonstrated with the most finesse. Its facade is divided by buttresses, the choir is flanked by side chapels, and the apse is flat. The bays of the apse are large, and the Oeil de Boeuf on the western facade gives a beautiful light inside the church and on the baptismal font. Installed in the center of the nave, the capitals are decorated with foliage, jewels, and trilobes. The vaults were rebuilt several times, the choir in the 14th century and the nave in 1664. Other comprehensive repairs took place from 1664 to 1689, and the tower is repaired in 1724. A clock was added to it in 1742. Many other repairs took place throughout the 20th century, and roofs were restored to their original angles in 1995. The church contains many items that are registered as historical objects. Church's picture gallery.